Welcome to Half Century Hangout, where different paths lead to the same table. I'm your host, John, joined by my friends and co-hosts, Luke and Chuck. We're three guys who grew up differently but became good friends with a lot to talk about. On this show, we bring our unique perspectives to the table and dive into everything from current events to life's big questions. We might not always see eye to eye, but that's exactly why we're here. To listen, to learn, and change our minds sometimes. So grab a seat and join us for honest conversation, unexpected insights, and a few friendly arguments. This is Half Century Hangout, where different perspectives make for better discussions. Welcome back to Half Century Hangout. How are things going today? I heard that we did have a Super Bowl. I'm not sure how super it was.
The Big Easy Beatdown.
Yeah.
That's all I got to say.
What a surprise that was.
That's what tells you when you have a crappy offensive line. That's what happens.
Yeah. Or you have an exceptional defensive line. I think that
It could be both.
Philly was on top of it.
They were, but I think that Casey's O-line shit the bed. Sorry.
It was a bit of both. It was a bit of both.
Yeah, I was super surprised at that, though. I mean, 27-0 at the half.
24.
24-0 at the half? I thought it was 27.
No, because
All I know is the
25 was the record, and they were at 24.
Gotcha.
Yep.
It was definitely a beatdown.
Beat down.
Kansas City was never really in the game.
No, they didn't have
They
a
did
shot.
score at the end, but, that was about
I mean, there was a few dimes he threw at the end, like tosses them out there. It's good.
Yeah.
Helped out a few parlays along the way, that
Yeah.
kind of stuff.
Yeah,
But
sure.
Otherwise, it was garbage.
Yeah.
Garbage time.
All right.
Was there a halftime show? Sorry.
There was something about that. The best part about the halftime show was the Buick.
Oh, I got a little trivia on that.
Yeah?
So that Buick that was up there, that is not just a Grand National. It's a GNX, which was the up of the Grand National, 1987. And that's the name of his album, okay? But the reason that he named it and where it comes from is that is the car that his dad had that he brought him home from the hospital in.
I'd heard that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, so that part was cool. But you did realize that they had it staged on there. It was a fake car.
Yeah.
And people came from under the stage because 100 people came out of the car.
Yeah.
They weren't all
crazy.
just packed in there in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I don't think the back seat of a Buick Regal was that big.
No.
Oh.
I don't know why. I don't know why I brought that in.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I didn't even really.
Sometimes it gets bigger. I don't know.
I don't know.
I remember when those cars first came out. I wasn't a big fan of them back in the late '80s.
Yeah.
I didn't really value them for what they were, but because I was used to the bling, the chrome bumpers, all that kind of stuff, and they didn't have any of that. So
Deuce and a quarter.
yes, but anyway, enough about the big game.
Time to move on, huh?
Feedback. We got feedback.
Yes, we got some great feedback. First of all, I want to give a shout out to Adam in Lincoln. I was talking to him over the weekend, and he said that he really enjoyed the podcast, that it was
Nice.
very informative, fun, and so that was kind of cool. Again, my Becky from Dayton, Ohio, she chimed in, and she actually left a message on the
Nice.
Facebook page. So I'm grateful for her input. And again, if you guys are listening and want some input, definitely go to our Facebook page, Half Century Hangout, and leave us a message.
Yeah, give us some feedback. We'd love to hear from you.
Shout out to Bonita Springs, Florida. That's Beth and Logan checking in. And in Chicago, Trevor's been listening. Appreciate it. They haven't put anything down in print yet, Like they're pretty personal. They're kind of to themselves, but I've heard it on the phone.
Yeah.
And it's been good. So I'm real happy that people are listening, and we just keep spreading the word, and people tell us good things, and people tell us some other things, and it's all good.
Kennan from Council Bluffs, he loves the show. Faithful
Nice.
listener, subscribed actually, so
Wow.
he follows us
Awesome.
on Apple Podcast.
Awesome.
That's pretty cool.
So that was the other thing I was laughing. We don't record that opening, every time. I mean, it's pre-recorded. We put it in. John says in the opening, grab a seat. Well, today we grabbed a drink. We're back in Luke's garage.
Yes,
I love Luke's garage.
I love hanging out in Luke's garage.
It's fun, and we get a little bit of a respite tomorrow because we're supposed to hit some bad weather. So our boss said,
Stay
remote
home.
learning day.
Yeah.
Remote learning.
Remote
We're all in education,
learning.
and
There's a lot of learning
sometimes
happens remotely.
Absolutely,
Maybe.
it does.
Yeah.
It can.
It
Definitely can.
Sure.
And one of the things, you can talk about that feedback, Chuck, because I know you had some pretty specific stuff, but we're kind of tagging along with it today. So
Okay.
let's rip it.
So kind of a follow-up from last week's episode regarding these participation trophies. Becky writes in, she says, hey, on one hand, receiving a participation trophy could give that person false hope of maybe thinking that they are good at whatever the event is. And also, does it diminish the value of the person who has a real achievement?
Ooh,
That's a good question.
That is a great
What are you guys'
I
thoughts?
think we touched on it last week a little bit. A tad, and that's great feedback, and that's real specific, and that's the way we like it, that it really hits to the note. And I think that's why we wanted to continue with it today, to not only address the feedback, but take it a little further. And I think that she hits the point right there where it says, if you have whatever the team is, whatever the group is, whatever that is, if somebody is a stellar participant, whatever that means, in whatever activity it is, and everybody on that group gets this, I'm just calling air quotes here, participation trophy, whatever that comes by, does it diminish or does it build up the people that think they really did something special? Does it take away from the person that really, really did something special and they look and say, hey, that guy got the same thing that I did?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I do.
It
but
could.
I think there's an age appropriation with this for sure. Because if we're talking into high school and we're still looking for participation trophies or recognition for just being a part of something, rather than just being being thankful that you are a part of something, I think there's a difference there. But I still think if like 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe 11 years old, I think there's benefit, and I don't think you're necessarily hurting that competitive kid who is, excelling.
I think you just said it, excel. I think it has to do with excellence. Are you striving for that excellence? Striving to get better every day. Not necessarily winning, but getting better and becoming the best at your craft, whatever that craft is.
Sure. But the question is, does it diminish the value of the person who has the real achievement? If I'm 11, I don't think it diminishes my value, but a participation trophy could encourage an 8, 9, 10, 11-year-old in ways that we may not even realize.
It could. I don't disagree with that necessarily, but we keep coming back to this thing about the age appropriateness of it. What about what just happened and we talked about at the beginning? Super Bowl. Who gets the ring? Who gets rings in that winning organization? Who gets a Super Bowl ring?
Every single person.
Every single person. Even so the players, the front office,
Hey,
the people who were there.
didn't you say you had somebody that was a groundskeeper at Kansas City? Somebody said they had a fraternity brother that was a groundskeeper at Kansas City.
Yeah, that wasn't me.
That had a ring.
But
'Cause
that's
you get
my
a ring.
point. Here's where I was going with that. And I know I don't know exactly how far down the line those rings go. I know a lot of people get them, right? Something like that is a huge accomplishment, right? Okay. No matter where you are in the thing, why do they ever come up for sale? When you see Super Bowl rings up for sale, somebody there doesn't really have, it's cool, but you know what? They don't have this sense of accomplishment like, oh my gosh, I could never get rid of this because I was the G. You know what I mean?
I don't know that you know that.
Sell it. Oh, I know that.
I don't know that you honestly can say, hey, the janitor at the Kansas City Chiefs stadium doesn't really value and know his contribution to the organization. I think that's a straw man.
I don't know that he doesn't necessarily know what his contribution was, but it doesn't hold the same salt. It's not the same thing. Like he's like, I'm never giving this ring up because, man, my grandkids are going to see it, my great grandkids and people down the line.
So what is your argument on that? Why should he not get one?
I don't think he shouldn't get one. Yeah. I just think that I don't want to pigeonhole the conversation into saying that everybody who gets this participation trophy doesn't think of it the same way. Because that's really what it comes down to me, is that if I'm on a team who didn't do crap, we didn't win anything, we didn't do whatever, and we all got this trophy, what am I going to do with that thing? We have a coworker who told us the other day, and her kids are younger. They don't give a crap about them.
Sure.
Those things wind up in the garbage. You know, it's not like it's not like it's this thing that I think that there might be, and Chuck, you've said it a few times, and I'm not necessarily disagreeing with you, that there might be that kid once in a while. It's like, oh, I got this thing, I'm going to do it again next year, or I'm going to try it again next year, or whatever it is. I don't disagree with that, but I think when we look at it as far as excellence or excelling at something or working hard enough, I think that it does more entitlement than it does pushing that work ethic further for a kid. That's what I think. Right. That's just my thing.
So talk about the Philadelphia Eagles. Let's say the winners of the Super Bowl, right? And if you want to take it down to a custodian level, I don't even know if they get it, but let's say they do, right? I don't think a custodian is going to think that they had the same contribution to the organization that Hurts had or that Saquon Barkley had.
Well, I would hope not.
I don't think they're going to think that. But I do think that whether they value it enough to hold on to it, maybe they fall under some financial hardship and they have to sell it, it doesn't mean they value or undervalue that experience of being a part of that organization for that period of time. It just means, I mean, we don't know what it means because we don't really know them, right?
But doesn't that also come about because of how whatever that organization is built? Because there's some organizations where, you know what, that custodian is, oh my gosh, they celebrate them and they do their thing and they figure it out.
So what you might be talking about is a little bit of culture. There's a story from NASA. When they were going to the moon, they would tell everybody, even the janitor, you're a part of putting a man on the moon, which is you're a part of being a Super Bowl winning team. And that's a culture that you build.
It is.
Really,
I agree.
that's a culture.
I agree.
And so that goes beyond the participation trophy that you get. You know, part of it is, how do you help people be excellent? How do you help people be excellent and move beyond just winning games or whatever it is? But is that participation trophy helping people be excellent?
So, you know, I was laughing because I like to research and I like to look at things and see. And when we were talking about this, and Chuck, you know, anytime I get a chance to bash on the state of Ohio, I take it. And it was interesting because I know last segment we talked about when we thought these became kind of like the thing. And we said it was kind of right after the time that we were kids. You know, it was in that, you know, 80s, early 80s.
Maybe into the 90s.
Maybe into the 90s, whatever it was.
Late 90s.
Yeah.
1922.
22?
The Ohio State Invitational High School Basketball Tournament gave participation trophies to every athlete who played in the invite.
Okay.
In the invite. It was an invite.
Yeah.
It wasn't
that was the first time that they've ever in history seen that everybody involved in something got this award.
And I don't know the circumstances around that. I don't
think any one of these people ever played sports again.
Yeah, but it could be that maybe that was a special invite.
It could have been,
you know, to where the best get to go.
Yeah. But we kind of, you know, I was looking at it as we keep talking about sports, and that's important to us because we all follow sports, and you know, I'm part of it. We're all part of it,
right?
But we're in education, and we've talked about this a little bit. And one of the things that I found that was really interesting was this. It's not necessarily the participation trophy, but it's the same concept. and you can call it grade inflation. You can call it these different things. And it's about assessing performance, whether that's in the classroom, whether that's an employee, whether that's an executive, whoever it is. And one of the things that I found that was really interesting about it was that when the Vietnam War was going on, they had started to decide that people who were mainly men at the time, but it was still women as well, but mainly men at the time, if they were in college, they were deferred on being selected to be in the service, in the draft. But then they started to change and said that those who were intellectually higher, so they kind of drew the line and moved it up a little bit, which turned into grade inflation, where they were getting professors or they were getting people to, hey, give me a better grade so I don't get drafted and go to Vietnam. Oh. So it kind of turns into this thing where, are we inflating things based on, like John was talking about, excellence, or is it for real that we are giving something, an award, a promotion,
a grade,
a grade, anything, based on what have you done for me? What have you done based on what is expected?
Or what have you learned?
Right. Too.
What have you learned?
I mean, what you actually explained there was fraud.
Well, yeah,
right.
Yeah.
But think about
We've
it.
Seen that.
And that's the thing is that there's, I mean, how many guys literally, let's be honest here. Like you said, fraud, and that's 100%.
Sure.
We talk about busts in the NFL, right? You see guys that are on teams that are there and it's like, oh my gosh, that guy really is hit way out of the park. Like he had a great tryout, but he's really not, Tony
Right.
Mandritz is just one comes to my head, right?
Yeah.
Do those guys really deserve a Super Bowl ring if they were on the team? I don't know. If you never saw the field, if you were never there, I mean, yeah, but that's the thing is it's fraud, some of it. You could see there's false inflation of things, of people's either a performance or of their participation, or it could go the other way too, where it's deflation, where somebody's there and trying, but they actually get bumped further down.
Absolutely. So, Luke, I'm going to take us in a different direction. What do you think of? We're in high school. We work with high school kids.
I'm not in high school.
Yeah, we're not in high school. We're 50.
We're a long way from high school.
Half century hangout, right? But anyway, we work with high school kids, and what do you think about the sports and maybe some of the club sports?
Oh, I knew you were going there.
Yeah, wow. That's what I wanted to ask you.
And this is the thing. This is what I feel, and I'm just gonna. John's kicking back because he's gonna put his feet up and take a nap while I talk.
Well, it's all about Luke.
Yeah, that's the way it is. I think that there's been a very, very strong, a very, very definite product that has happened with youth, with high school sports, with kids participating based on what some of us call club sports, some of us call it select, all these things. When I was growing up, and you guys were all about the same time, pretty close. If somebody would have said select sports back then, I don't know that I really knew that word. Some people called it travel ball, or some people called it some other things.
Right.
Where you had a tryout. Like you had a tryout, and you had to make this team.
Right.
Which, just a tryout in and of itself tells you the people on this team
are exclusive
on some level.
Sure.
According to someone.
Right.
So as that occurred, which I'm not saying was good or bad, but there were those kids. And then the rest of us played in either just our high school teams or in recreational leagues or whatever it was, which is fine. There's nothing wrong with that participation, right? I think what happened is that over the years, that select/club sport has watered down the system to the point where if a parent, if they're able to, and more power to them, if they're able to write a check for the registration for that league, they're in.
Yeah.
There's no tryout. They're in it.
They can write a check. They're good.
They're in. There's, generally speaking, there's parent coaches. There's some coaches that are there. They're not getting paid for what they're doing. I mean,
Right.
they're volunteer coaches, right? There's probably some that are
Right.
based on the idea that it's their league or whatever it is, and they're getting some sort of compensation for that. But I think the overall thing has been by a lot of parents is that if my kid plays in this, doggone it, they're going to rule your high school team.
Yeah.
Which I think is wrong, because just because you are on or in a club sport and or a select team or whatever that is, it really doesn't mean anything as far as how you compare to where these other kids are. I don't think it really makes much of anything, because if I say that now, this is the other thing I need to qualify here. I need to do a, what do you call those things? A disclaimer.
Okay.
Okay. A lot of times I speak in words where I'll give a strong opinion about something. It is not in and of itself exclusive.
Sure.
I'm not always saying everyone or every person or
Right.
every kid or every club.
Right.
I'm not saying that. I'm saying that I think as a whole, there's a bit of problem, especially in certain sports, which we could go there at some point. But the idea is that it rules it to the point that kids not as much participate across sports, that they're multi-sport athletes, because the coaches in club sports are asking them / telling them, and their parents are because they're paying for it, you're a one-sport kid.
Sure.
Which we all know is not, that's like
That's not
taking
good.
that's like
That's
taking
not
math
good.
class all year long.
Right.
You can't do that. We need to be multi-faceted across the world. That's what's going to happen when you're an adult. You can't do that as a kid.
Yeah.
So I think, in a nutshell, John, you asked the question, and that was a great question, but I could go on for hours about it, and I don't want to do that.
No, I think what can happen on both sides of this argument is you have the polarization, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you can say everybody gets a participation trophy, and it's all good in every circumstance for however long you want to do it, or you could say it's never any good, and so let's just abandon the whole entire idea. But what I do, and even with club sports, I think you can do that same thing with club sports. The value to me in club sports, if it's handled properly, is development.
Yeah. 100%.
So you have your select league, right? The primo league, that they're going to be the ones that travel. But a lot of those club teams also have developmental, like A, B, C, D types of levels, to where they use that as development. It still costs an awful lot of money.
Yeah.
And I think if they are taking away and like cornholing an athlete into a single sport, be it basketball or football or soccer, whatever it is, if they're cornholing that kid at a super young age, I think that's not good for that athlete.
Let me be clear
I
about
agree.
something. What I want to say is that I agree with everything you just said.
Mm-hmm.
What I think the problem with it is not, it winds up being on the kid's plate. What I think the problem is that, like you said, if a kid is in the select and he's the highest level, he or she is up here at the highest level.
Mm-hmm.
But the other ones are in a club sport and they're there and there's supposed to be development going on.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe they're not the greatest player, but their parents have put down some money and they're doing it. Like you said, it's still expensive.
Sure.
Okay. I think it falls more on the parent, because the parent then thinks, oh, well, my kid was in this. And so now, as a coach at a high school sport, you have parents coming to you saying, my kid should be starting because they've been in this club, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And that's the problem. I mean, the kid
Yeah.
is a kid. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the development, like you said, is absolutely 100% I agree with.
Yeah.
I don't know that there's always intention, right? There's good intentions of doing it. Nobody has bad intentions for kids to do that.
Right.
It's the idea that if there's going to be development, let's develop them. And
Yeah.
let's make sure that parents understand when they come to the high school level, it's like, guess what? We're all going into the same pot. We're all here. And
If you're
golly,
skilled,
we all know now with NIL and all the kids changing schools and doing things, it's a different world.
yeah.
And you know what? If you're going to be committed to it and you're going to be there and you like the coach and you like the program and you love the school and you're there and you're committed, you're going to work harder.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to do it. And if you feel entitled to the piece that I should be a starter on this team, even if I'm not good enough,
Yeah.
here's what I think. I think that goes back to culture. Because what you're doing is developing a culture where people get better, or you're developing a culture where you're saying you are already there and you deserve to start wherever you are, right? And so I think that goes back to a culture of building up excellence and getting better every day and working hard every day. You talked about that, working hard and developing those skills, whatever it is. And some people develop skills at different times. And it could be in any organization we're talking about, not just sports, but it could be any organization. So that goes back to the culture of building that culture of excellence, not winning every time, but getting better incrementally along the way so that we are the best we can be when we get there.
And it's great that you brought up the culture piece again, because we all know of the culture piece that we work within. The P for pride, as we call it, pride is for participation, right?
Yep.
So that's the very first thing, because you're not going to do anything without that, right?
Yeah.
You've got respect with the R.
Right.
You've got integrity with the I. You got dedication and just being there and dedicating yourself. And that E is for effort. So all those things that we've talked about are the culture piece that John's talking about. And I think that it's so important to do that and to continue to build it in this world where a kid can say, I'm leaving here because the grass is greener over there and I'm leaving right now and I'm going.
Yeah.
And that's tough.
Yeah.
Because old school guys like us, to see that, it's like, I would have never, even if I wanted to back in the day, if I would have wanted to go to another school, that ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen. And my dad would have. Well,
So let's talk outside. Let's talk outside athletics and talk outside education. Maybe we're talking to somebody or somebody's listening
at a corporate level, right?
At corporate, maybe they work for the phone company or they're a plumber or whatever.
Right.
What is the equivalent of a participation trophy, and how could it help or hurt their organization?
I think that an equivalent of that is showing up, coming to work, and just getting by, right? Just getting by. And you're collecting a paycheck. Sometimes we see that, right?
I think that's the thing. Like John just said it. I think the participation trophy for, and I don't want to say it this way because it sounds really negative, but if you want to say the expected level or the lowest expectation, whatever, it's the paycheck.
Absolutely.
Right?
You bet.
Like you guys said, you've been in places before where you were rewarded for something above and beyond,
so
like
monetarily
you got something.
For giving more.
You got more than what your paycheck did, right?
Yeah.
And like my son does the same thing. He has this, and we talk about it a lot, and he's really taught me a lot more about it, because obviously in education we don't have that, right?
Yeah.
But it's like, I think that is the participation trophy. And when we talk with kids about working in the future, and we talk about being in class or we talk about doing something, they're like, well,
I'll just go work at
whatever.
McDonald's and
if
I'll
I show
collect
up,
a paycheck, and you know what? That's okay. But here's the thing. What you have to build is that opportunity, first of all, and the willingness to be excellent in what you are giving to the organization so that you get better every day through the determination and the effort that you're giving to that organization. And that helps you along the way, and it helps your organization. So you got to build that culture where people want to be there and they want to do their best.
Well, if I'm a small business owner, there really is no participation trophy, because I'm competing every single day to get some business. right?
There could be a participation trophy.
Well, it depends. Like you said, small business. Like, I'll think of it this way. To me, participation trophy, if you're doing it, I've got a guy who is an HVAC guy, right? An HVAC. If he's there and he does a dang good job, and I feel like he did a good job, he was fair, he was honest, he was not ringing me through the ringer, whatever it is. I referred my neighbor to him. I referred a person who was on my coaching staff. I got a guy who was my boss who I referred to him because I trust him. And that, for him, he's a small business.
Right.
That, to him, means more than what a participation trophy would be, not just going and getting paid. It's that somebody believes in him, somebody trusts him enough to say, hey, you're my friend, use this guy because he's really, really dang good.
So I guess at the end of the day, for me, I seem to maybe fall on both sides of this argument. And because, again, that age appropriation comes into play. I don't know that a participation trophy mentality can translate into the adult life, because any job I've ever been at, you're always going to have people who are going to do the good job, right? They come to work, they grind every day, they make it happen, and they're your dependables. You're always going to have your high performers. And you're always going to have those guys who you're just grateful they get there that day, And I think
ungrateful.
Yeah, I mean, you're always going to have those types of people, and
but think about what you just said. I'm sorry.
No, go with it.
Think about what you just said. Is that you're always going to have those people that are up there, right? They're busting every day. They're grinding. They're doing their thing. So if you're in a company, I'm stepping outside of the other world, right? You're in a company and you got these people that are there banging, right? They're going at it. They are keeping you there. You got the other ones that you said you're grateful they show up. Why are we grateful if they show up?
I say nah to that because I don't want.
He just said nah.
He said, I don't even know what that means.
All right.
I don't want people that just show up.
Yeah.
I want people that show up and go above and beyond every day because I've created the culture.
What we want is the people that show up every day, but then say, God, this place is a great place to work. I'm going to amp it. I'm going to jump
so
it up.
For me, I guess the participation trophy is going to be for that person that, they may be an underperformer. I don't know until they're there, right?
Right.
I mean, you only get so much at an interview. So it could be that person's participation trophy is the fact that they're on my staff. So what you have to do as a culture of a company, or as you manage a business, as you lead that particular business unit or whatever, is you have to have a plan for those lower, it's usually a 5 to 7% in your staff that's going to be the low performers, a plan to develop them and make them into at least the mediocres. If you can't, then they got to go, right?
Yeah, some leaders decide
they got to go.
Some leaders decide right away. Is that person? Can we develop them, or are they done?
Right.
Some leaders go a little faster than others to do it. It's just the way it is. But I think that hits the nail on the head, and I think with your age thing, I think that's a big part of it. So.
That's a great way to wrap things up, I think. And got any statistics for us for any other things that went on
for the podcast?
This week?
Yeah, I mean, the podcast is doing really good. Our last episode did really well. We have, I think, about 178 or 179 downloads. Our next level, according to Buzzsprout, to get like the reward is like 250. So I think we're doing really well. I think our goal and our main objective is to develop really good content so that the people that are listening to this podcast will say, hey, you need to listen to these guys because it's interesting, it's informative, it's entertaining to some perspective, on some level. But I'm super stoked with what's going on. What other things should I be sharing about this, guys?
I think you got it all there.
I think we're there. I think it's good, and we can't stress enough that we are. It's not even that we just want it; we need it. I want to talk about things that people want to hear about. I mean, I can talk all day, but if nobody wants to listen to me, it doesn't make any difference. We want to hear about things, that people want to hear about. If they want our opinion on something, I don't think anybody here is afraid to give their opinion.
Yeah.
So I'd like to do that again, because even like in our intro, right? It's about changing minds. It's about looking at things. It's about learning. It's about hearing other people's things and saying, hey, I never really thought of it that way.
Yeah.
You know what? Maybe I'll change my mind. You never know.
And here's the thing with we're in the Omaha metro area, Omaha Council Bluffs, and if you are a local business or you have a place where we could come and hang out, and you want to host us for this podcast, give us a ring.
Yeah,
we would
100%.
love to sit down at your place of business, whether it's a bar or a restaurant or a coffee house or whatever. We'd love to sit down and have you host us, and we'd include you in on our show. So with that, I'd like to let you know, maybe we might have we definitely have a refurbished logo coming. So if you go to our Facebook page, you'll see our logo. It's kind of crappy because I'm the one who made it, but
I don't really think it's crap.
Yeah, we got a guy.
It looks like it's from the 60s on a street somewhere with a bar. I like it.
We got a guy from Creative Club Designs who's tweaking it a little bit, and he's gonna give us some love on it. So we're looking forward to that.
I will tell you that, and we're gonna wrap up here. But the next time that we put an episode out, Chuck might be a little not quite himself because he's going to lose in a chili cook-off that we're in this weekend, and Chuck's going to be a little hurt about it, and that's okay, because you know what? It's all about excellence, and what are you going to find that the people love? And we love you guys, and we just want to keep going. So keep listening, keep going. We love you. Give us feedback. We're good to go.
Merch is coming, so love you guys. We'll see you.
Take
Peace
care.
out.